Good afternoon, everybody. I would love to talk to you about the spaghetti principle of innovation. Innovation. I would dare to say innovation is quite easy, right? How do you do innovation? You get together in a fancy boardroom, you do a strategic process, then you make out a detailed plan, then you work on it very hard, you communicate it to everybody, and then you implement and are happy. That's how innovation works, that's how change works, that's how every project goes, right? Right? That's how it works. That's the story that we tell ourselves how it works. Afterwards, after something has been successful, that's when we sat together and that's how we planned and so on. But reality might look a little bit different. And I would dare to say that we need to look at a different approach. You know, one time I was in a strategy meeting and somebody said about a competitor something. And I said, well, they're just using the spaghetti principle. Yeah, and I was like, what? Well, they don't know what they're doing, they're using the spaghetti principle. I was like, what is that? Well, Lars, when you cook spaghetti, how do you know if they're ready? Well, one method is you take them out and throw them at the wall and see if this sticks. That's what they're doing with their program. That's what they're doing. They're just fishing and somewhere's there and they see what sticks. Totally unplanned. But I would dare to say that might be the way how innovation actually works and how we can all apply this in our lives. Because let's look at the world a little bit. If we divide our environments into operating history, if we have a long operating history, if we know and have a long history of operations, of techniques and so on, or short operating history, and a static environment or a very dynamic environment, I think if we are up here, long operating history, static environment, we can predict and plan. That's a good thing. That's what we can do. Think of chess. Yeah, chess, basically, we have it's a complex game, it's a difficult game, but we have a long history. It's a relatively static environment in between it. If you then came up and said, oh, let me throw some spaghettis at the wall, let's use these figures as well, and let's start playing around this with it, people would go like, no, you're nuts, you're crazy, that doesn't work. But let's look at a different environment. How does it work in a dynamic environment with a short operating history, where we actually don't know anything, where there's no trail? What do we do there? Joseph Campbell once said, if the path before you is clear, you're probably on somebody else's path. And that is very true. And in this environment, we have to test out something different. And I think here, the spaghetti principle comes into play. So what can we do here is test and iterate and use these spaghettis and throw them at the wall. Actually, in the research for this talk here, we operated this at home. We tried to really see this. So just to illustrate you, what does the spaghetti principle do? You cook the water, basically, and then you throw it there, and then you really see what does stick and what does not stick. Basically, some will fall off, some will slowly crumble down, but some will stick. And that is also a metaphor that we can use for all of our endeavors in innovation. So I want to explore with you different fields where I've used the spaghetti principle and where I think you can all use the spaghetti principle. And the first one that I want to start is meetings and management. Who of you attends meetings on a regular basis? Can I see a quick show of hands? Okay. Who of you likes these meetings? Can I see a show of hands? Okay. Not too many of you, because why? Very often they're a drudgery thing. But what I would recommend you to do, coming out of this session, is maybe test out a couple of new strategies, throw them into your meeting and see what sticks. And a couple of these things that you can try out is the following. Try out walking meetings. Just instead of sitting in a boardroom, why not walk around on a one-on-one or another one and take your paper with you? Sounds strange? I started doing this with my boss. And we got our walking thing, our daily steps, so to speak, aligned with it, and we had a good discussion with it. It's totally changed the perspective. There's new research coming that actually one could have one-on-one conversations, plenty of one-on-one conversations, instead of meetings. Fast Company says we should turn our offices into ant colonies because that's how ants communicate. Sounds strange? Well, there's quite some research out there that says you can reduce the average meeting time by a couple of by 20 to 30% by doing this. Or the one strategy that I like the most that you can bring in there is full water meetings. That is a strategy by Katharina Flake, who is the CEO of Flickr. And she said before our meetings, everybody has to drink 2 full glasses of water. Okay? And when the first person has to leave the room, the meeting stops. Maybe you get things done, maybe not, but try these out. Stick it out and see what sticks for you and your organization. Education and parenting. For the parents who are, among you, you won't probably have a lot of difficulties feeding spaghetti to the kids. But when it comes to fruit and vegetables, or even worse, the dreaded broccoli, basically, things look a little bit different. I'm not sure how you've experienced this, how you find this, but sometimes there's really that resistance, like, no, I don't want to eat this, and so on. And there is across the world a fundamental strategy that a lot of parents then apply. And that is, well, you know what? You have to eat it. First proof, then complain. Which is, at the end of the day, this is the spaghetti principle. You first throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. And you say, no, I don't accept that you not go there. You first have to try it. While we do this, maybe with things like broccoli, I think in the overall education system we can do more around this. Because I see a tendency now, that is a great tendency, say that follow your passions and so on. But I see that almost with 12-year-olds sometimes. People go, no, I just follow my passion. But how do you know what your passions are with 12 years old if you have not yet tried out a lot of things? And that's why I do think an education system needs to let students explore fields. Let them see what sticks. And then move on from there. So in your spaghetti portfolio, so to speak, throw in a couple of new ideas and new strategies and so on, and throw them at the wall and see what sticks. And by doing that, slowly, you optimize for yourself and get to the right point. There's just one problem. Maybe there's another area out there that might be even better. And for this, nature has come up with a great strategy as well. And I think we can all take quite some inspiration from nature here. What does nature do? It's very similar, following very similar algorithms here on this one. Slowly optimizing, introducing small mutations, and from time to time, really big stuff. Stuff that goes here, and maybe over there. And maybe that is the one that sticks. And I think I would call this here the spaghetti supreme strategy that we need to look into and can implement as well. And in order to do that, I want to run you through a little thought experiment by the sociologist Dirk Becker. He once asked managers on how would they like their organizations to be? How would they compare that? If they were to compare it to a bee swarm or to a bunch of flies, what would they think? What would their organization, what should it look like? And most people would say, bah, obviously the bees, right? Because they're organized and it's cool and great and they get things done, where the flies are like flying around, don't like flies. Now, that might be right, but if you continue that thought experiment with the following, you have two empty bottles. You put these bottles with a thick end towards a light source. And you put a couple of bees in one bottle and a couple of flies in the other bottle. Which ones would exit? And very often it turns out the bees would go bum, 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 to the light, where the flies would go with a random chaos and would come very, very fast out of this bottle there as well. And in these scenarios, it can help them. And what that means for our spaghetti principle is not only like some new things, what we think that might work, but also building in a couple of randomness and a certain degree of randomness into our area. And actually, we can really be inspired by nature on this, because that is happening in almost all swarms and swarm-forming animals. Birds, ants, even bees and so on have also this kind of randomness built in. A swarm of birds, what happens there? Actually, bird mathematics, quite easy. Swarm mathematics, like they just follow what the 6 to 7 birds among them do, and they just follow the same. That sometimes can lead to very, very interesting patterns. In ants, also in birds. In ants, it's called an ant mill, where actually every ant follows the other ant, and you can see a cycle of death, basically. So they just follow and go in cycle. Go on YouTube, you can find like several videos around this, where they go on, and go, just in a cycle. Same can happen with swarm-forming birds. They just go on in a cycle. Now what happens then? Sometimes even the ants, they go on until they die. But very often they get out of it, same as the birds. And why? Because in every swarm, there's a certain percentage of animals that don't follow this typical, oh, I do the same thing as 6 to 7 others around me. They just go, oh, I just go somewhere. Normally that's not too great for the swarm. It's like, come here, and so on. But in these moments of problem, of being stuck, ignoring this typical rule is actually the right thing that saves the swarm. And I do think we can use that principle a lot in our organizations and project portfolios when we talk about true innovation portfolios as well. Also here, in these portfolios of innovation projects, we can build in a certain amount of randomness. Really doing like very, very distant ideas, random ideas. And we can see that in almost all of the very successful companies at the moment. Take Google and Amazon at the same time. Investing in windmills, in sun farms, Google Glass, and so on. A lot of these things fail. A lot of these things are very distant, but some of them stick. Some of them stick. If you want these things to happen, though, a totally different organizational culture needs to be in place than what we have at the moment. First of all, it needs to be an absolute acceptance of failure. In the agile movement, it's even said, fail forward, like appreciate failure. But do we do that in normal life very often? Do we truly embrace that? Just look at the reactions to Google, like, oh, on the glass, they failed, ha, 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 and so on. But I'm not sure that they would consider this as a failure. No, it's a learning thing. Fail forward, embrace and accept these failures. The next thing is be absolutely open to what randomness might bring. And one of the most famous examples in history there is Sir Alexander Fleming, with his discovery and work on bacteria. One day, in the 20s, coming into his laboratory, seeing Petri dish with all of his bacteria dish where the bacteria are being dead all of a sudden. Now, what he could have said is like, well, okay, let's start all over again. But instead, he said, oh, just wait a second, what happened here? And that led to the discovery of penicillin. Because seeing like, how did these bacteria die, basically raised new curiosity, but this openness needs to be absolutely there. And the third absolutely vital criteria is weirdos matter. Basically, as we've seen in the swarm, the folks, the ones that maybe dissent, that maybe go out, these guys matter a lot. Maybe there might be some disturbance in the day-to-day environments, but for true innovation, that is what we need to have. Margaret Heffernan once said, for good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, conflict, argument, and debate. And that is what we need to have in organizations. And here, we can implement as well these acts of randomness together in our spaghetti principle. So what I recommend all organizations actually to have is kind of like 3 different types of things. The base stuff that they want to do, then some new ideas where they think, okay, let's test it out, and a certain degree of randomness. That goes really, really wild. Not too much, but a little bit to really, really stretch your thinking. And then we come to a last area, and that is online and social media. For this one, I need to do a quick test here. Who of you is on Facebook? Okay, who of you is on Facebook? Almost everybody. Okay, now I would love to hear 1 or 2 inputs. What do you do actually on Facebook? What actually do you do there?
Waste time.
Waste time, all right, got it. What else? Connecting with friends, sending messages. Sell, all right. Selfie words, lies, things. Some people sometimes say stalk others and so on. All these things can happen. But one of the things, what I heard here, one of the smallest activities that we do has enormous impact and also on the spaghetti principle. Because one of the things that all of us who are on Facebook do is indeed like. We like stuff. And what do you like? Well, you like stuff. You like, obviously. Stupid question. But that actually leads to an effect that we can see all around social media at the moment. You like stuff that you like stuff that you like, and the algorithm works on that you see more of that, what you like, and what you like, and what you like, until you come in what is called at the moment the echo chamber. And you see stuff that you find great because you liked it before, and you say, wow, that article is really good, and that is really cool, that is great, and that is interesting, and that is fantastic. Wow, I see all the stuff that I like at the moment. Yes, of course, because you liked it before. How does the spaghetti principle, especially with the randomness, kick in here? And I think that's something that all of us can do. Random liking. A strategy that I would recommend all of you to go ahead with. Just don't only like the stuff you like. Go out, and maybe if you don't want to stretch it too far, like some pages who post random stuff. Random inspirations, random pictures, and so on. There's some creativity pages from this. Or you can go one step further, which is very interesting, like maybe also some magazines or whatever who have somewhat opposing views to yourself, and read these as well. Truly interesting and truly enlightening. Or if you really want to take the spaghetti principle very far, just like random stuff. The Garden Association of Luxembourg and so on, just like, and here this, everything like, Alaska dog breeders like, everything in there, like it all, to see what comes up. Maybe nothing sticks, but maybe this one idea comes up that breaks you out of that echo chamber, and maybe that actually has an impact on your life. So we've seen it in meetings, education, organizations, online and social media. I've tried to apply the spaghetti principle in all of my areas of life. And whenever a project and whenever I go in, I say like, hey, maybe there's this one thing, and just give it a try. And not for ages and so on, but for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and see if it sticks. And that's what I would recommend to you as well to do. Go out and throw these spaghettis at the wall and just see what sticks, and do more of that. Thank you.